All right, folks. So earlier today we had the nominations announced for the 30th, believe it or not, it's the 30th Critics' Choice Awards. And yeah, I guess the bigger headlines I'm reading here, and I've read through them. I read through these awards, the nomination stuff briefly. We'll talk about who's in, who's out, stuff like that. Now, don't forget Critics' Choice. Of the major televised awards, this one I always kind of put toward the bottom as far as importance. It's very much like the Golden Globes. We don't get any voter crossover between this award show and the Oscars. We don't have we don't really have a lot of like enormous prestige that comes with this. I'm trying to think. Even last year, I'm looking at back at the winners last year, and it's like they had Best Actress wrong, they had Best Actor wrong. Or no, though they did give to Emma Stone. Never mind. I thought I could have sworn I saw Lily Gladstone won this thing last year, but no, Emma Stone won this. They had Best Actress right. That is true. I'll give them that. But yeah, like they had one of the screenplay categories wrong, but it was going to happen regardless because Barbie ended up being in the adapted screenplay category, so I can't blame them too much for that. But again, not perfect. Certainly not an award show that again I point to as like the end all be all. But it is what it is. And I also again I don't love that there's so many like ties and tiebreakers and stuff that happen with this, because that's how you end up with like today 8 nominees in Best Director, only 5 nominees in certain other categories. It's like I don't know. It's just not a perfect award show by any means. We had what, 7? Oh no, 6. I was gonna say the song category also looked like it had an extra nominee in there, but no. Most of them have 6, but there's a couple. There's one that has 8. There's a couple that have 5. So it's like I don't know what to do with you. Anyhow, we'll go ahead and get started here. Some of the biggest news, though, is that we do have Conclave and Wicked tying for most nominations at 11. I believe. Looking for a list here. Trying to see who else had multiple nominations here, but I think it's I don't think they have it put together yet. How many did the Brutalist get? Did Brutalist get 8 or 9? I think I'm counting it for 9 right now. Otherwise, Dune Part 2 had a good share of nominations. I have that one at 10, I believe. If I'm counting right, I have 10. Otherwise, I'm trying to figure out why I got stuck in my throat. Anora, I got a pretty good share of nominations. We had The Substance. The Substance was still fairly strong here today as well. Emilia Perez, of course. Maybe minus 1 or 2 categories for that one. I think it ended up with, let's see, I'm going to try to do a count here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Technically 10 with the international feature category. So anyways, let's go ahead and just run down the categories here, talk about who's in, who's out, etc., etc. And again, I did not have official predictions for these, so I don't really get any demerits or any praises for these today. In the Best Picture category, you have Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, Sing Sing, The Substance, and Wicked. And for my Best Picture list, the one... Actually, do I have... yeah, The Substance is the one of these 10 I believe I don't have. And A Complete Unknown. So I have 2. Yeah, those 2, I believe, are the only ones I don't have. And for that part, I do have... let's see, which ones do I have in that they don't? Let's see here... I have A Real Pain in, that did not get picture here today. And then the other one is, of course, Blitz, which a lot of people are probably jumping on that one. They're like, Blitz got nothing at the Globes, as I recall. Let me triple check my math on that, because it was earlier this week. I've already forgotten. I was like, kind of looked through. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be good for that. And then I'm like, oh wait, who got what now? But yeah, nothing from the Golden Globes for Blitz. and it got one nomination here today at Critics' Choice, and it's in a category that does not carry over to the Oscars, and that's Best Young Actor or Actress in a Film. Yikes. Not a strong early showing. But again, as far as future predictions, as far as does this change anything, with Blitz, I'm going to say actually no. Here's the reason why. It's a big reason why. BAFTA. BAFTA is super late. BAFTA has a significant crossover of voters. So I know a lot of people are going to ditch everything for Blitz. They're going to be like, nope, it gets absolutely nothing at the Oscars, etc., etc. Nothing for Saoirse Ronan, nothing for some of the tech categories, etc. I would hold off. Wait and see what BAFTA does. If BAFTA comes in and is very cold on the film, they only give it like 1 or 2 nods. Okay, then it could be really questionable, except in the 2 categories it gets into. And that's, obviously if one of those 2 nominations is Best British Film, okay, then we know it's probably down to 1. But otherwise, I would say, yeah, if Blitz comes in at BAFTA and actually gets a handful of nominations, they're up to that 4, 5, 6 range. Watch for it to land about maybe half of those at the Oscars. I would not be shocked at all. Again, it's just not a film that's really hitting with these early award voters. And we've got stuff like The Substance and obviously Wicked and Complete Unknown and a few of these other ones that are hitting right now. And they're arguably doing better than expected in some aspects, at least. But, yeah. Otherwise, for movies that I thought maybe could have gotten in for Best Picture here, Gladiator 2 I thought was kind of in the mix. I mean, I don't really look at it as a huge critics movie, but I wouldn't have fallen over a shock if it had gotten nominated. September 5, after getting that kind of almost out of nowhere Globe Picture nomination and then getting nothing else, the fact that really didn't have a great day here today. I would have figured the critics would have been behind this. Instead, it's in for editing and screenplay only. Which actually, it would not shock me if at the Oscars we do see at least those 2 categories overlap as well. Because I don't, right now, the actors in the movie and the ensemble and stuff, I don't see them as being like a huge threat to make a big splash there. It could still get in for picture on top of those 2 categories, of course. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think it's going to do extremely well in those other tech categories. I think editing, screenplay, picture, on the off chance it might get one of those actors in or an actress in the supporting races, that's going to be about tops for that movie, though. I really don't see it exceeding that. Let's see. Otherwise, for other movies that could have used a bump here, there were a couple people that were thinking Challengers after it did better than expected at the Globes. And then a couple were liking the chances of like The Wild Robot, for example, which today I think it got 3... Yeah, I believe it got more or less the 3 that we think it's going to get at the Oscars as well, which is the 2 music categories and animated feature. So, yep. So, yeah, as far as, does this mean The Substance and Complete Unknown are absolute locks for Best Picture? Less so on The Substance. A Complete Unknown, I think, it's starting to round out a few other nominations here, I think. Like Ed Norton in Supporting Actor, we'll get to him in a few minutes here, but... Maybe, because again, the reason I bumped it here not too long ago in favor of what was the one I put in ahead of it? Wicked. I did not have Wicked in yet, so I bumped Complete Unknown for Wicked. I think with that one, part of the reason I was like, well, I've got it down for Timothée Chalamet, I've got it down for picture. I had nothing else for it. Otherwise, here today it is. Let's see. It's only got 3 nominations here today. There was one category. That the award show here does not do at the Oscar, and it carries over to that's the sound category. There's no sound category here at the Globes. That's a one that I've seen a lot of people starting to put Complete Unknown into, and yeah, that could very easily happen. But again, outside of even that category, is it really a huge dominating factor in any of the other tech categories? Not right now. Are either Elle Fanning or Barbaro, or am I thinking of someone else? Yeah, Monica Barbaro, yeah. Are either of those 2, a huge threat now in supporting actress? Not really. They both have missed the Globes and Critics' Choice thus far. We'll see if SAG has a spot for them, but we'll see. Yeah, so otherwise it's like, it doesn't seem to be like a solid contender in a bunch of other categories. Like, we haven't seen a big push for Mangold for director yet or anything like that. Yeah, so otherwise, I think the rest of them more or less were expected to be here today. So, especially something like Sing Sing and Nickel Boys being more critics' pictures, better reviewed films, generally speaking, overall. Nickel Boys, I know it's not like 100% Rotten Tomatoes or anything, but it was, I believe, a little higher on there, but we'll see. Now for the 8 directors in, you got Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, Sean Baker for Nora, Edward Berger for Conclave, John M. Chu for Wicked, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, Coraline Fairjet for The Substance, Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys, and Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. And at this rate, aside from maybe the handful now, because Ridley Scott has missed both the Globes and now Critics' Choice for that director slot, aside from them, or maybe if you're still sticking with Mohamed Rasoulof for The Seed of the Sacred Fig, or after the kind of surprise, I shouldn't say kind of surprise, the surprise nomination for Palia Capadia, for All We Imagine Is Light, which it's really, since it's not even going to be eligible for the international film category this year, that really, really makes it a long shot in the directing category. Unless you're sticking with one of them, I think they're going to have to whittle down this list of 8 to 5. I think you got to, 3 of these directors got to go. Otherwise, I'm really struggling here. I'm like, okay, is Greg Quidar for Sing Sing still a thing? Not really. Is Pedro Almodovar in the conversation? Not really. Luca Guadagnino, not really in the conversation. Steve McQueen for Blitz, not really in the conversation. So you could argue, one of those two being the two I would say most likely to break in otherwise are probably Ridley Scott and Mohamed Rasoulof. We'll see. If one of those two gets in at BAFTA, then I think that would really help them, and that arguably puts them really right back into the mix, because it seemingly, we've seen some disagreements there in recent memory. I'm always thinking of Edward Berger the last time he was up for All Quiet on the Western Front. Once he got that BAFTA nod, I'm like, boom, it's locked in, and then he missed the Oscar nomination for no apparent reason whatsoever. But anyways, because that was one I'd been calling for weeks beforehand, and I was like, it's locked in. He's going to get in BAFTA. This is the moment. It's a Netflix movie. The directors are going to go for it. It feels like a movie like that they would like. It's a war film, et cetera, and it, just for inexplicably was missing. Anyways. Otherwise, it's like none of these nominations completely shock me. I think Ramel Ross is kind of circling, getting in. Coraline is also now circling getting in, now that she and the film overall, The Substance, does continue to stick around. And I thought today at Critics' Choice, I'm like, if it landed more nods here than it did at the Globes, which it did, it's not shocking, because again, this has been a big kind of critical darling movie since its premiere it was Cannes, right? Yeah, I was going to say it's a Cannes movie, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Since its premiere at Cannes, it has been something of a critical darling movie. Demi Moore, people have been talking about her for a while. And, obviously we'll get to her and the Best Actress category here in just a few moments. But, Anyway, so I feel like, again, if you're in this 8 for the director list today, this is probably a great handicap spot. Again, you've got some potential for movement in that category, especially after the BAFTA nods come out. But we'll see. All right. Acting categories next. Best Actor, your 6 here today are Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig for Queer, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, and Hugh Grant for Heretic. A little bit of a surprise there with Hugh Grant. He's both a Globe and now a Critics' Choice nominee. Eisenberg could have used a little hand here with a Real Pain, but so far, as you've noticed, we haven't really mentioned that one yet too much here today. And it ended up with 2 major categories, and it did make the meaningless Best Comedy Film category, which, again, I won't count that nomination because it doesn't carry over. Number 1, definitely does not carry over to the Oscars. Number 2, this is really outside of, you could argue, the comedy motion picture category at the Globes. It's not one that really carries over to many other ones. It's kind of a thing that the Critics' Choice, just a thing they do, so I don't really count it as an official nomination. So that one kind of, with only 2 competitive nominations that it's going to, play in at other award shows. Yeah, even though it is, again, it's one that played at Sundance really well earlier this year. Critics have really enjoyed it and everything. I was a little surprised that one didn't end up with more of a haul here today as far as nominations. But I'll tell you what, Sebastian Stan, man, he got the double nod from the Golden Globes there the other day, and now he gets shut out here today at at Critics' Choice, and this is why I was still really, really shaky on putting him in kind of throughout the year here, especially when we get to like the Oscars when it's only 5 slots. The fact that he does have 2 unarguably lead performances, they're going to cross each other out. I'm just afraid it's going to happen. And it would also, I mean, not that it's a guarantee, but, you know, if you do have an actor in there who's not in a Best Picture nominee, you know, he could be one of those slots. That's true, but right now you're looking at maybe, depending on what happens with The Complete Unknown, that could fall out of the picture conversation, and Timothée would be the representation there. Or you could say Daniel Craig, obviously, because Queer seemingly does not have a lot of support anywhere else. It's really, with both Globes and Critics' Choice, its only nomination has been Craig's performance. So, yeah. Otherwise, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else who's, like, legit in the conversation who we can kind of talk about here. I mean, maybe John David Washington. The Piano Lesson actually did get a nomination here today for supporting actress, but that was the sole nominee for that one in Danielle Deadwyler. And again, we'll get to that category here in a few minutes as well. But just not a great day for Sebastian Stan. Not a great day for Real Pain, I guess. In the Best Actress category, you have Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Marion Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, Angelina Jolie for Maria, Mikey Madison for Honora, and Demi Moore for The Substance. Where is Nicole Kidman? Nicole Kidman, again, very strange that she's missing here. Now, I know Baby Girl, this is Critics' Choice. It's not exactly, again, a movie that's 100% Rotten Tomatoes. There are some people that were critical of the film. There were some people that, when they watched it at the various fall festivals and prior to it, because I believe it, didn't it show at like one of the other festivals or something? There were people that had their umbrages with it. But the fact that she's missing, and someone like Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who had 6 slots in the drama category at the Globes and couldn't get in there, she's here today. Okay, that tells me something. Now, that being said, I still expect Nicole to get the SAG nomination. We'll find out about BAFTA here shortly. I can see an actual timeline where maybe she misses that shortlist, that BAFTA shortlist. We'll see. But, and remember, the acting categories, there's still that juried part of BAFTA voting. So the fact that she is so celebrated and stuff, I can see her missing at BAFTA, but getting that SAG nomination and keeping her definitely in the conversation. So yes, I don't think she's totally done for Best Actress just because she missed here today. This is definitely helping Cynthia Erivo's case, though. Marianne Jean-Baptiste, again, after missing the Globes, she's gotten a few critics' notices this year already. She's, still in the race for sure. Demi Moore is definitely still in the race. Otherwise, the other the other 3 I have in, Angelina Jolie, Carla Sofia Gascon, and Mikey they're all in good shape here. Otherwise, is there anyone else we can mention here? I know some people are still thinking maybe somebody like a Fernando Torres for I'm Still Here. I hate to say it for those that like the movie a lot, but it's really down to if it's going to get a nomination, it's going to be this, and really it does not have a solid chance in anywhere else. Maybe, aside from a very slight possibility it gets into the screenplay category. But even then, I'm not 100% sure about that. I feel like that's adapted screenplay race. It's not as... It might seem kind of like there's some slots open because something like Wicked can get a nomination here today. But, I don't know. It feels a little limited for that. Otherwise, if you're Amy Adams, if you're Saoirse Ronan, at least for The Outrun being Saoirse Ronan, yeah, the fact that, especially Saoirse's missed both, not great. And yeah, that movie, I figured with Sony Pictures Classics behind it, she could very easily still get in for the BAFTAs, and I can very much see that movie being shortlisted at least for the Best British Film category. I believe it's eligible for that, last I checked. But the setting at least being in Ireland and stuff, or partially in Ireland and then in the greater parts of the UK somewhere, if I recall the trailers correctly and stuff. That's definitely going to keep it, top of mind for some BAFTA voters, so I can see her getting one of those 6 slots, but yeah. She's really going to need that BAFTA comeback, I think, to get back into the race. All right. Let's see. The supporting races. Supporting actor. The 6 here today are, I'm going to scroll back up, Yura Borazov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2. So, Macklin missed at the Globes. He's back in today. I expect him to continue to do well. I think he'll get in easily at SAG. He could even win SAG over Kieran Culkin, who they have honored quite a few times now for Succession, whether it's him individually or the cast, for the ensemble prize and stuff. So I can see them going with Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing, and I can see Sing Sing, after a not-so-great performance from the Globes, having a better day at SAG, obviously, and you know, being a little more front of mind. Here today it got, let me count again. Did it get 5? I'm counting it for 5. 5 nominations, yeah. And that's even without getting in for Best Song, which I think is still a very possible nominee there at the Oscars. One of those, though, is Acting Ensemble here today. That one will not carry over to the Oscars, so yeah. Let's see. Otherwise, congrats to Yura and to Edward Norton for both getting in both days for the Globes and the Critics' Choice. Neither of them are in my predictions right now. And Stanley Tucci, man, what's happening? Conclave. If he was not going to keep getting in for Conclave, I would have figured that Conclave would, you know, somehow be struggling. But here today, it's got, and by the way, it's 11 nominations. None of those are in the silly categories that I don't count. They're all in categories that will carry over, for the most part. Acting Ensemble, you know, we do have SAG Ensemble, so I'm, you know, I do count that one, but it's still like, you know, it's not like, you know, the majorest category to get into or anything. But yeah, the fact that Conclave, it's doing so well and they just can't get anything for Tucci, I'd say watch out. Here's the deal. I can see him, again, being someone who misses a lot of places here, misses at SAG. They go with him at BAFTA, and then he gets in at the Oscars. I can definitely see a path like that for him, and especially Conclave. It's going to be a movie that we know a lot of Oscar voters are going to watch. They love Denzel, so even if Gladiator 2 underperforms at the Oscars, which I think it'll still do fine in the tech categories and everything, there you go. And then it's like, okay, because those two are in my 5 right now, as are Guy Pearce, Clarence, and Kieran Culkin. It's like that's where Edward Norton and Yura, that's where they kind of struggle a little bit. Now, Edward Norton, I think, again, being a past nominee as well, Tucci's also a past nominee, that helps them. With Yura, he is an Anora, which is, again, that's definitely one they're going to be watching. And the fact that it's him and not a mixture of him and like Mark Edelstein or anyone else from the movie that could be up for supporting actor, the fact that they're not canceling each other out, or one's getting in one award show and another one is getting in at a different one, that's a great sign for Yura. It's a testament to the fact that they are watching the movie and they're picking him over his co-stars and stuff. That does make me kind of pause a little bit and say, okay, is it just time to bump Tucci and put in Yura, or is it possibly Edward Norton? And it's 5 slots at the Oscars. It could be kind of tough. And again, because it's like, okay, A Real Pain, you know, it feels like they're watching that one. Clarence with Sing Sing, it feels like they're going to watch that one. The Brutalist, we know they're going to watch that one. And Guy Pearce, even though he's never been nominated before at the Oscars, it kind of feels like a pretty natural slot for him to get his first nomination. So it's kind of tough to nail this down. Jeremy Strong didn't get in today either. Peter Sarsgaard for September 5. He's starting to feel a little, starting to feel like he's kind of struggling here. And September 5, I think it's really going to have to just be one of those movies that the Oscar voters just, you know, they hear about. They see it, they just happen to like it better than other award shows. It's just going to have one of those type of performances for him to get in, I think, at this rate. Now to the ever-competitive Best Supporting Actress category. Boy, this one was tough here as far as reading the name stuff and saying, oh, okay, so they're missing this person. You know, it's one that they're going to end up like 3 or 4 nominees that are in at other award shows are going to miss, I think, at the Oscars. This is going to be tough. But the 6 here today are Daniel Deadwyler for Piano Lesson, Anjanou Ellis-Taylor for Nickel Boys, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. So, no Felicity Jones here is interesting. That's one I think, again, she's a past nominee. The Brutalist is one that's going to be widely enough seen. That's just kind of a strange, inexplicable one for me. No Felicity Jones is interesting. Selena Gomez, even though she ended up getting the double nomination of the Globes, I thought, okay, that's, maybe she'll just get in everywhere. No, they couldn't find room for her here today. Let's see, is she in the, let me look really quick. Wasn't she nominated for the, on the TV side? No, I guess technically, I don't know about this. Here at the Critics' Choice, somebody's going to have to help me out here. If you're a performer, do you technically get part of the nomination? Because they list the performers here on one page here for the official nominations. Now, I don't know if that carries over. I don't remember like Ryan Gosling going up on stage last year when I'm Just Ken won here for Best Song last year. So I don't think they are officially nominated, but it's they don't officially get like a trophy should they win, but it's like, I don't know. Otherwise, yeah, Saoirse and Blitz underperforming here. Yeah, that's probably a sign that she's probably not going to survive unless Blitz, gets a really good, hearty, thumbs up from BAFTA that shows that the voters really like it. Yeah. So that's 3 at least. And then I would still say Monica Barbaro for a Complete Unknown and Elle Fanning for a Complete Unknown. They're still in the mix there. And the one actress, by the way, from September 5 that a lot of people are name dropping is Leonie Benesch, I believe is as close as I've come to pronouncing it. September 5, it just wasn't really a great day for them here today. So, yeah. Let's go to the screenplay categories now. Original screenplay. Your 6 here are Anora, September 5, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, The Substance, and Challengers. And as far as we go to the Oscars here, this is one after Saturday Night really just did not do well at the Globes, and it obviously I didn't think it was going to have a huge comeback here today at the Critics' Choice. I think it's probably done in the screenplay category, and with that, it's probably just not going to get noticed by the Oscars. So it's too bad. It's, again, still one of my favorite films I've seen all year. Probably is my top film this year of the ones I've seen. But again, I have missed, because of illness and everything else, holidays and stuff, I have missed so many movies in the theater, and I just got to hope they come back at some point. Either that or I'll just have to find them on streaming here, hopefully very soon, and hopefully before the awards are, the official nominations are out and everything, because I really don't want to fly in too blind to this season. Let's see. Seed of the Sacred Fig, I think, is definitely going to still be in the conversation here, especially if it can, be more powerful in that directing category and kind of lend itself there. Then if the writers are also liking it, that also means the directors are probably liking it. Let's see, did we say Hard Truths yet? That's one some people are still banning about in the screenplay category. I had it in for a while there. And yeah, the fact this one, Hard Truths, got in for Best Actress, and it's not up for anything else here at Critics' Choice today. That shows they're watching it. And yeah, Mike Leigh, I think overall in the last few years, he's been better at like getting those screenplay nominations than say like Best Picture or something like that. Yeah. Otherwise, Challengers, I don't love it in this category. It kind of feels, I don't know. It just feels like one. I don't know how many voters really are going to love that movie. We'll see, because it's up for 4 nominations here again today. None of them in like the picture category or anything. But yeah, it's one I didn't mind it. It's not like a great movie, but it's one I enjoyed while I was watching it. It hasn't like really stuck with me since or anything. But yeah, I guess I'm not really sure what to do with that one yet either. On the adapted side, we have Emilia Perez, Wicked, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, Conclave, and Dune Part 2 nominated. It's really strange. With 6 slots here, they went with a musical in there. And again, having not seen Wicked, I can't, say, oh, what a terrible screenplay. But really, Wicked? I don't know. I just don't sense it as like a huge like screenplay accomplishment. It's like, yeah, you adapted this stage play. Half of it, at least, in this first film. Now, obviously, with it being 2 hours and 40 minutes, and they're only telling about roughly half the story, that does mean they did expand other stuff. So, clearly maybe some of that stuff is really good and impressed some of the writers here. But I would think something like The Room Next Door, maybe even something, I know it's faded a little bit, but Piano Lesson could have gotten one of those slots. A Complete Unknown was in for Picture. That could have definitely taken one of those slots because it's in the adapted category this year. Even some people like The Wild Robot's chances here. I'm Still Here. Some people like that movie's chances here in adapted screenplay. I don't know. But yeah, they go with those, and they have room for Wicked. But again, I'll tell you, that has got to be the sixth slot here. I really do not think it's going to be one that, is like fourth or third or second in the rankings here by any means. No, I think it's one they had the open slot. It's a popular movie. They said, yep, we'll go ahead and put it in. For acting ensemble, the six here are Nora, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Saturday Night, Sing Sing, and Wicked. And yeah, at least Saturday Night, at least it got this. It also got the erroneous and not very important Best Comedy nomination. I'm still a believer in this movie getting in at SAG. It's really tough because it means you got to leave somebody out. But man, I like its chances in at that SAG category for ensemble. I still do, and the fact that it did get nominated here today really helps. And again, I get it, no voter crossover between SAG and Critics' Choice, but I don't know. I don't love its chances at the Oscars because I don't think it's particularly strong in any one category where it can get in. And even then, when it's your only expected nominee, sometimes if it's, especially in a top category, it can really fall out, especially an acting category. But yeah. Let's go through the tech categories here. Not like lightning speed, but we'll try to go through them a little quicker here. I feel like I've drawn this out a little bit. But there's stuff to talk about, though, with this stuff. In the category of cinematography, you have Nosferatu nominated, Wicked, The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, and Nickel Boys. And in this category, I believe one of the movies I have in that is not here is Maria. I expect that one to do better once we get to the Society of Cinematographers Guild. When we get to the Cinematographers Guild, I think that's where he'll get nominated and come back. And also Emilia Perez, which has, it did really well here today. It got the ensemble nomination, got almost all the acting categories it could have been up for. They don't go with it first. And the cinematography in the movie is really well done. I'm just a little surprised they didn't pick that one. Instead, they go with Wicked and Nosferatu. Now, Nosferatu, again, that one has not been widely seen yet. And I can understand it getting in for cinematography. The lighting and stuff in the trailers and stuff does look really, really beautiful with the gothic style to it and stuff. And it does look like, okay, yeah, that's definitely one. And Eggers' films, have always been praised for their cinematography. The Lighthouse, of course, famously was nominated in 2019. So it's not, it's definitely not one of those nominations I say, oh, it's not going to repeat. Of course not. No, it's very much in the race. Wicked, having not seen that one, though, I'm not sure about that one cinematography-wise. I haven't heard, a lot of the reviews, I haven't really heard anybody praise it for, wow, it's such great lighting schemes and so beautifully, the camera work is so beautiful, blah, blah. No, a lot of that love does go to something like Nickel Boys, which, for whatever reason, I'm still not sure about that one's chances here at the Oscars. I'm just leaving myself some room for doubt. It just feels like one, even though, yes, I get they're going for the first-person thing, and that usually is something, not say, for lack of a better term, a gimmick like that, and I'm sure the movie does it very well. I'm not putting the movie down. I'm just saying, for lack of a better word, doing that, or doing a trick like that, if you will, I think, it's something that people notice and they'll, like it early on. I'm not sure if the Cinematographers Guild is going to like it, and I'm not sure if the cinematography branch at the Oscars is going to love it. That's where they save room for their favorite friends. This is a cinematographer who has not been nominated before, so that's where I kind of feel a little unsure about Jomo, his chances. Yeah. Let's see. The next up would be the film editing category. Here we have Anora, Challengers, Conclave, The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, and September 5. And at the Oscars, I think for myself, again, Emilia Perez is missing here. I think it's going to be such a widely enough seen film. I think it can very easily get that Oscar nomination, even if it isn't one of the 6 nominees here today. Challengers, I think you could argue, definitely is in the race here. Let's see, who's doing the editing on that? Marco Costa. And I don't think, Oh, is that the right person even? Hold on. Yeah, I think that's not a previous nominee or anything. Not that I'm seeing, at least. Not to say that the Editors Guild and the Editors Branch is like necessarily one that like loves to nominate previous editors or anything. Not always, but I don't know. It feels like one. It's like, okay, yeah, Emilia Perez feels like a better bet because that's going to be a arguably more widely seen movie than something like September 5 and Challengers at this rate. We'll still see if September 5 can maybe sneak its way still into the Best Picture conversation. And then, yeah, I can see them going for it in the editing category. Not say that the two correlate, but, if you got enough people that are passionate in that branch about the movie's editing and stuff, yeah, I can totally see it making the list. To the design categories now. Best costume design, you've got Conclave, Nosferatu, Maria, Wicked, Dune Part 2, and Gladiator 2 making the list here. And this one, I'm still hanging on to Beetlejuice as a possible nominee here as well. It didn't feel like one that would get into Critics' Choice today, so I'm not shocked by that at all. The Brutalist could very easily get into this category at the Oscars. It could be just a name check thing, very much like Power of the Dog, or arguably something like Oppenheimer in this category last year. Gladiator 2, I don't have it in right now, but I feel like I probably could bump it, because I still have Blitz in, and again, that's with the BAFTA theory and stuff. Otherwise, let's see. I think most everyone else I have in. Yeah, I have Maria, and I have Dune Part 2, and I have Wicked all in. Conclave, I believe it's not like a period piece, I don't believe. I think it's a more modern set film, to my understanding at least. But, yeah. With the whole, all the costumes going on around the whole Pope, Roman Catholic Church and everything and all that. I can understand how it's definitely still in the hunt, though. It's not, again, most of the time the costume design branch at the Oscars, and with most of the, or I shouldn't say most of the Guild, because the Guild splits it between modern, sci-fi, and period. But, most of the time, though, most of their prizes, and BAFTA as well, they mostly go with period piece. They traditionally have not really loved contemporary costume design. It's just, yeah, so you've got really just the one here, though, in Conclave. Most everyone else, yeah, Nosferatu's period, Maria's period. Wicked and Dune are both fantasy, and Gladiator 2 is kind of a mixture, I guess. But it's supposed to be, I would probably argue it's more period because it's set in a real time period and everything. Let's go to the production design category here. The 6 are The Brutalist, Wicked, Conclave, Nosferatu, Gladiator 2, and Dune Part 2. And this category, I think at the Oscars, again, Blitz is still in the mix. I don't have it in right now. I still like Beetlejuice's chances here. I know I'm alone on that island right now, but I think once we hear from the Production Designers Guild, if they don't put Beetlejuice in for like fantasy or contemporary, they could do either one. If they don't put it in, I'll probably drop it, but I'm kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. If it gets into either one, whichever one they want to run it in, it would probably... Boy, it's a 50-50 split for me. I guess you could go fantasy with that one, but yeah, if it doesn't make it there, then I'll probably drop it. But yeah, I think Gladiator 2, Brutalist, Wicked, and Dune Part 2, they're all solidly in the race here for sure. Conclave, again, is another contemporary one, and even though I think the Oscar voters are seeing it, and they're going to like it and stuff, I don't see them going for it the way the Critics' Choice here today. So that's where that 6th nominee, that 6th slot kind of helps you. I can definitely see something like Nosferatu getting this slot over Conclave because of the period favorability here and stuff. And that's, again, having not quite gotten to Conclave yet, I can still understand where some people say, well, hey, it actually, actually does kind of have to create some of these interiors and stuff for what's going on with the whole search for the new pope and everything. So it's like, yeah, it's not like totally out of left field that it's getting in or anything, and it is a movie that they're obviously watching, so yep. Next up, we'll do the 2 music categories. For the score category, you've got Conclave, The Brutalist, The Wild Robot, Emilia Perez, Challengers, and Dune Part 2. None of these 6 are a particular surprise. Hans Zimmer, though, it sounds like his score is still not going to be ruled eligible for the Oscars for Dune Part 2. If he is going to get in, obviously, more or less obviously, it would be Blitz would take its place. And again, we'll wait and see what BAFTA does. If BAFTA nominates him for Dune Part 2, we'll see. We'll see. Then I might have to drop him for Blitz because, again, he's not going to be on their thing there for score. And again, we'll see next week when the shortlists come out. Obviously, this is one of the categories that's very much going to be affected by that. Let's see. Otherwise, in this category, we'll see if Wicked can hang around. I think it's got a shot still, and it is one of these, okay, Wicked, you got nominated everywhere else, but the score category, they again, like the Globes, they left you out. That's a little strange to me. Let's see, because again, everything I'm understanding, it is an original score that's to this movie that's not like extremely, extremely carried over from the any of the Broadway productions, which if it was, I think, again, it would have been disqualified. I think it wouldn't have been eligible. So yeah, I think that one, it's kind of really, even though Wicked is doing really well at a lot of these award shows right now, I don't know if it doesn't. I can see this one somehow missing the shortlist though for this particular category next week. Otherwise, I know some people like the score for Gladiator 2 and Nickel Boys. Nosferatu is possibly still in the mix. I've heard some people early on that have seen the movie. It's, again, in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. They said the score is memorable. It's not like, it's not like an immediate jump out of your seat thing. And horror scores, unless you're like The Omen with Jerry Goldsmith or like some of these others, they can tend to struggle a little bit with getting in. So, yeah. The 6 songs picked out today are Beautiful That Way from The Last Showgirl, Compress Repress from Challengers, El Mal from Emilia Perez, Harper and Will Go West from Will and Harper, Kiss the Sky from Odd Robot, and Mi Camino from Emilia Perez. And I'd still say wait for Diane Moore in here. Just because she's not getting in early, no surprise, she rarely does. Unless her movie's like definitely more in the conversation, which the 688 is really not in the conversation for much else. And now Sing Sing, getting the nominations it did today and still missing for the movie song Like a Bird, it's a little iffy to me. Piece by Piece is now missed in both the Globes and Critics' Choice, so that tells me that one's probably not going to be remembered later on down the line. So yeah, that those two feel a little shorter now with their odds. Again, I would still say look out for the Elton John song to break in as long as it makes the short list. Any of the songs from Mufasa, those could make the short list. And yeah, how about that Last Showgirl? Maybe with Miley Cyrus and everything singing it and all that. Maybe that does open up maybe the voters at the Oscars. Maybe it's more of a realistic expectation now that it's among the things. Again, if it makes a short list, let's see. For the makeup and hairstyling category, we've got Beetlejuice, Dune Part 2, Wicked, Nosferatu, A Different Man, and The Substance. And arguably, these are ones that are, none of these are, again, out of left field. I would still say for A Different Man, it's a little iffy because, again, everything I'm reading is that the actor Adam Pearson, that is his real face. There isn't, a ton that's added on to that, is my understanding. But, yeah. Emilia Perez is one I could totally see, though, getting one of these slots at the Oscars for sure because of its popularity and just overall the number of people watching the movie and everything. I can totally see them going for this. Otherwise, I think you got maybe Gladiator 2, maybe The Apprentice, still in the mix there, but again, the short list is really going to help us next week. For visual effects, we have Gladiator 2, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Better Man, The Substance, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes nominated here. And of these, I do think more or less these films and Mufasa are probably the ones in the mix here. Mufasa, for whatever, they just didn't like it in any of these tech categories here today. Twisters, I believe, is on the 20 film early short list. That's the only one. The only short list we really have right now at the Oscars is those 20. Which, by the way, we should name off those. I don't have. I just have a general list here. It doesn't include. It's not like organized by any particular list here or anything. But the 20 that made it are Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Twisters, Gladiator 2, Mufasa, Furiosa, Better Man, Here, Alien Romulus, Civil War, Deadpool and Wolverine, Beetlejuice, Godzilla X Kong, New Empire, A Quiet Place Day 1, Spaceman, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I'm trying to think of like what movies we thought maybe could be up for effects that didn't make it. I heard some people say Blitz, but that one I took out a while ago, and yeah, I don't expect it to... with this, not making the 20, obviously it can't make it at the Oscars now. again, not a great sign for it early, but it was one that was definitely going to have to like really have a strong showing in Best Picture and be up for director and really be in the race for a lot of these key categories. I think for it to be on the 20 pictures shortlist, it would have to have that kind of trajectory, in other words. And the fact that even early on now it doesn't have that trajectory, yeah, that's a sign that it's probably not going to end up being our most nominated film, just generally speaking. But again, let's wait for BAFTA. Let's see if make sure it also appears on a few of these short lists where it can be eligible here next week. Then we've got Best Animated Feature. Your 5 here are Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. Those are my 5 at the Oscars. All 5 also made it at the Globes. I feel really good about those 5. Moana 2 with the sequelitis that the category seems to have, particularly with awarding films just flat out getting the nomination, like Frozen 2, and then also winning the category, like Incredibles 2 not winning, and especially last year with Spectacular Spider-Man, or whatever the hell the name of it was, Across the Spider-Verse, with that one not winning. They just really don't love sequels there. They'll allow them to be nominated, like Incredibles 2, like Toy Story 4, like Inside Out 2, especially if you're a Pixar sequel, and Spider-Verse 2. Spider-Verse was also a sequel, of course. And Wallace and Gromit, more or less, you could consider it kind of a sequel. They've done other live-action Wallace and Gromit films before, but anyhow. Then for international feature, the 6 here are All We Imagine Is Light, Emilia Perez, Flow, I'm Still Here, Kneecap, and The Seed of the Sacred Fig. And we'll see the short list here again next week at the Oscars. It's going to be really important to see if Flow makes it. Emilia Perez, we believe, is going to be on there. Kneecap sounds like it's going to be on there, even though the Globes didn't love it on Monday. Seed of the Sacred Fig seems like it's going to be in contention. I believe that was the official pick by Germany. Yes, it was. I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there a kind of controversy or anything? I'm Still Here, by the way, also was Brazil's selection, so I would imagine that one will at least make the short list. But yeah. All right. And we know, I believe it has been pretty publicly listed that, yes, All We Imagine Is Light was not selected by India this year, so it's not going to be eligible for that category. Okay, so yeah, overall, great day for Wicked. Great day for Conclave, getting into a few of these key categories that it really, I won't say won't repeat at the Oscars, but it's really, kind of more or less a long shot at the Oscars. Like, for some of them, particularly, like Wicked for its screenplay, I really don't think that's really in contention. I could argue a little bit about Conclave's 2 design category nominations. I'm a little shaky on those 2 getting in. Overall, just because, again, they're going to favor period in those 2 categories over contemporary, but once in a while they make it in. So let's not forget also like Parasite getting in for production design here 5 years ago. That was a contemporary film that made it. So it's not impossible, and it's not, not going to be the most shocking thing ever, but it's just traditionally, and especially with 6 slots here today in both categories, they do traditionally prefer the older period style stuff than the newer contemporary style stuff, with as far as the setting of the film and everything. Yep, otherwise, yeah, Emilia Perez arguably missed a couple spots here today that it really should not have, but it didn't miss director, it didn't miss best actress, it didn't miss in, like, screenplay or anything like that. So it's not totally, dead in the water or anything after a performance here today. And it did, I believe I miscounted, by the way, on Monday live, right after the nominations, because I do have the same file I was using. I have my multiple nominations list here in the same file. So when I typed in Emilia Perez, it came up with 11. That's where I was coming up with 11. So yeah, that's where my mistake came in. It only got 10 nominations at the Globes on Monday. So yeah, yep. Otherwise, Substance definitely still in the race in a few of these key categories. How far it's going to go, we'll see. It's really benefiting, I think, right now from having 2 award shows where you get 6 nominees. I think Coralie is a real threat at BAFTA too, especially with the juried system. I can definitely see her getting a slot. And yeah, John M. Chu getting in here today for Wicked in the directing category. The fact that he did miss Globes, that probably hurt him a little bit more than getting, just his general chances. Getting in here today with 8 nominees, yeah, it does feel like, okay, yeah, they got you the nomination today. You're technically a nominee at a previous award show. this year, but I don't know. Otherwise, like, yeah, Anora and Brutalist more or less got everything we expected. Brutalist, though, again, missing that weird Felicity Jones nomination in a tough category, a really crowded category, mind you. So there just might not have been enough passion behind that particular performance in that category for this group of voters. I still expect Felicity Jones, though, to, especially BAFTA's going to get her in. If for whatever odd reason she were to miss at SAG, I could see it happening. I'm not predicting it, but if they particularly love, like over there at SAG, let's say they love Ariana Grande, they love Isabella Rossellini, they love Zoe Saldana, and then maybe they put in Selena Gomez. Now you're down to one slot. Is it Margaret Qualley? Is it Ingenue Ellis-Taylor? Is it Danielle Deadweiler? Is it maybe Saoirse Ronan for Blitz? Is it maybe someone else that we're not thinking of right now that's still, kind of hanging around? It's a question mark. It's a crowded category. And you're going to have a lot of hearts broken on Oscar morning when the 5 names are announced in that category. So, yeah. All right, I think we're done here today. We will be back next week. I believe it's, is it the Friday? It's Thursday or Friday next week that the shortlist comes out with their picks. So, the Oscar shortlist, where we get our first real sense of what movies could perform, underperform, overperform, etc. That's where we'll get it next week. So, we'll be back for that. Otherwise, after that, we'll probably be off as the Christmas holiday and the New Year's holiday come around and all the other various holidays that fall into that season, of course. And we'll be kind of pumping up for SAG nominations. That'll be not long after the New Year. And, of course, Oscar nominations are literally almost a month away. So it's coming. It's coming, guys.